Hey, your old friend Martin. It's just the two of us here, right? Do you have a few minutes? Because I'm gonna answer some of the questions, at least one, maybe two. One of the questions that people ask me often. I think I can actually divide them into two categories. The questions people ask me, and the questions people are thinking, but are hesitant to ask directly. So I'm going to answer the first one first, which is why did you move to Japan? Why did you move to, more specifically, why did you move to rural Japan? I live in the Inaka. The Inaka is like a colloquial term for the countryside. So I live a couple of hours, like an hour and a half from Tokyo by the Shinkansen. The bullet train is the Shinkansen. So we live in an old Japanese house, deep in the countryside, and I moved to Japan because America was making me crazy. It was just making me bananas. Let me elaborate. I've been in Japan for 2 years. When I left America, Donald Trump was the president. It's hard for me to get the words out. Was the president of the United States. We just gone through a season of watching George Floyd strangled every day on the television. And here's the thing about it. How do I explain this? It's hard being a black guy in America, folks. It's the damnedest of things. It's like swimming in a fish tank full of bleach. When I saw George Floyd being executed, it didn't shock or stun me because I've grown accustomed to seeing black fellas like myself being executed or strangled or harassed. I'm just a black nerd. My mom's a home ec teacher. I've been, arrested, stopped by the New York City police dozens and dozens and dozens of times. In my teenage years, I was pulled over by the police in Maryland weekly. I've never been convicted of a crime in my life, besides, maybe being too goddamn sexy. Just kidding. But, I'm just a normal, average white guy, I'm just in this black skin. So I see America through the lens of a black fellow. So when the George Floyd thing happened, what disturbed me was that I calculated quickly that the whites, for the first time, most of my close social circle in America are the whites, or white people. I'm just talking about the whites as a broad category because, it is the whites that created this black American fella, and it's the whites that are going to fix this problem that we're having in America. White people are the only ones that can solve the problem. And the way they go about solving the problem is just bananas. But I'll get to that in a moment. So I watched George Floyd get strangled over and over again. And I was just like, oh boy. It was the time of the pandemic, so the whites had to also watch it over and over again on the television. They just repeated it and repeated it and repeated it. So before long, they got together as a group and they made the bold move of changing their Instagram squares to black, which was pretty impressive. And then before long, they actually decided that the most effective thing to do was to stop paying the police officers, to defund the police. And then BLM, Black Lives Matter, became all the rage. Now, I know my life matters. The fact that the state of race relations in America is so fucked that the phrase Black Lives Matter, someone can wear on a t-shirt or say with a straight face, it's a sad situation. And seeing the reaction to the George Floyd thing, the real problem was that I knew how temporary it was. There's a Philip Seymour Hoffman is an American actor, was a beloved American actor, and when he died, I knew that had a heroin overdose. He took too much heroin down the village, and I knew that when Philip Seymour Hoffman died, that in about 7 days everyone was going to forget that he ever existed. But in those 5 days, there was a coming to terms with the heroin crisis in America, because all of a sudden people had to realize that their beloved Philip Seymour Hoffman had died. But about 7 days out, everyone forgot that anyone had ever done heroin, and it was just no longer discussed. So when I saw all the whites wearing Black Lives Matter T-shirts and getting up in a ruckus, I knew how temporary it was, and it was really, really insulting. Having Trump as the president, on one hand, it's the worst thing ever because he's a fucking racist. On the other hand, it was like one of the only times in my life where everyone sort of stopped lying for a moment. If you know who the enemy is, it's much easier to fight the enemy. So there was a moment of honesty in America when Trump was president. There's that. What was the question again? The question was why I moved to Japan. My wife is Japanese. My son is half Japanese. I raised him speaking Japanese and English. Japanese was his mother tongue, actually, in my previous life. I wasn't sitting in a garden wearing black boots, but I was busy in Midtown Manhattan. I raised him with both languages so that he would have genuine roots. Because Japan is it's a nation, but it's also like a culture and a people in a way. And he's, as a black dude, I wanted him to have a place that could be home. So that was another reason to come to Japan. And Japan is a place where even if there is wild contempt, people save their contempt for home. So to a gaijin, which is a foreigner, it's a place that's completely peaceful. I've been here for 2 years, and outside of getting a Japanese driver's license, it's been like living in sort of a utopia. As far as my shoulders are down. No one, here, the easiest way to put it this way. I stopped being a black guy, and all of a sudden I was upgraded to an American, or downgraded to a gaijin, depending on your perspective. I came to Japan and way out to the countryside because this black fella was exhausted of living in America. That's all the time I have for now. I know you have more questions, and I'm going to give you the answers, I think. I love you. We'll talk soon. Get back to the scroll.